Research consistently shows that people most often regret what they didn't do as opposed to what they tried and failed at. Harvard research specifically shows that the top three life regrets are usually missed opportunities for education, not taking career risks, and not expressing feelings. Our brains are wired to avoid pain, which includes rejection and failure. So we convince ourselves that not trying is a safer option and say we're being responsible and realistic. But my go to question in life has become, will I regret it if I don't try this? Hey everyone, welcome to the Naked Truth with Lauren Season 2. Welcome back if you're a Season 1 listener, and welcome for the first time if you're tuning in for the first time. We are going to be talking all about the messy realities of navigating your 20s this season, and I am promising you real, stripped down conversations about work, friendship, dating, self-worth, and the growing pains that no one warns you about at this age. Hopefully, you will feel a little less alone after listening. I'm your host, Lauren, a 29-year-old professional living in DC, passionate about creating spaces for open conversations and building genuine community. And I am so glad you're here. Thank you so much to our Season 2 podcast sponsors, Kelly Miller, Marika and Batman Pierce, Pauline Shu, and Jenny Porter. I couldn't do this without you. Hey girl, pull up a chair. Today we're talking about the no regrets rule. Hashtag no regrets. How to stop overthinking and start living the life that you actually want. This is like one of my favorite topics. And I know I talked about this in a previous episode or two, but we're going to get into it deeper in this one. So pull up a chair. We aren't just talking making goals. We're talking about creating a blueprint for a mentally well 2026 and beyond. Most vision boards you see are just like pretty collages that sit in your room and collect dust or you use to decorate your walls. What I'm talking about today is going from that to taking bold, real life action in alignment with your goals. So this is an example of last year's vision board. And then I have like specific goals written on the back. If you're watching, then you can see it. And then this is this year's. I like to make a vision board every year and I do vision boarding workshops. This is this year's upgraded with specific goals on the back. So the more specific the goal, the better, so that I can take real life action on these goals. Anyway, we'll go over this in more detail. But basically, so like as an example, I put go on a solo trip on my 2024 vision board, and putting go on a solo trip on my 2024 vision board made saying yes to booking a spot at a surf camp that came up on my TikTok For You page, on my TikTok feed. I was scrolling and I got introduced to Dream Sea Surf Camp, and I immediately looked on their website and did a little bit more research and then booked my spot. It made saying yes to booking a spot at this surf camp an easy choice because it aligned with that goal. I thought it was the perfect thing to do for a solo trip because it was made for solo travelers and groups, but it's like a environment that they had activities and like communal meals that facilitated meeting others and making new connections, which I was right because that trip was dope. Let's look about the research in the no regrets decision rule. Research consistently shows that people most often regret what they didn't do as opposed to what they tried and failed at. Harvard research specifically shows that the top three life regrets are usually missed opportunities for education, not taking career risks, and not expressing feelings. Our brains are wired to avoid pain, which includes rejection and failure. So we convince ourselves that not trying is a safer option and say we're being responsible and realistic. But my go-to question in life has become, will I regret it if I don't try this? This rule cuts through fear, it cuts through overthinking and what ifs. So if you're like in an analysis paralysis, contemplating several big decisions or options, this cuts through that paralysis. Some personal examples of how I've used this in my life. This rule helped me go from thinking about it to actually quitting my corporate job in 2025. It also helped me make becoming a digital nomad for a year a reality. That was during COVID. So like 2021, 2022 timeframe, when we got sent home for work in 2020 and I started seeing coworkers give up their expensive DC leases and either do some Airbnb hopping or move to a different city or state or move back home, it awakened something in me loving to travel and wanting to try out different places to live and maybe like settle down longer term. This was a perfect opportunity. So I thought about it, even though I was like in my first place in Arlington, right outside of graduating college and loving Arlington. The time was weird because, things were shut down for the pandemic. I was like, wait, will I regret this if I don't try like Airbnb hopping and digital nomading while I can? Because we didn't know how long we were going to be remote. And the answer was yes. And so I was like, that's it. I'm making the plan. I'm doing what I need to do to make it happen. And then it happened. It also helped me try dating women, which was scary, but it led to my current long-term relationship, which I'm very happy in. And for a little bit more context, that decision looked like I've been dating men most of my life. And then when I was like 25, I had an awakening and realized that I was bisexual. Long story short, I had changed my Hinge dating profile to both men and women, but I was having more luck with men than women and hadn't really like dated women. And I was like seeing this guy, I was like casually dating in 2024. So that's the very beginning of 2025. I was thinking like, okay, what if this works out and like this is my long-term relationship and this is the person who I get married to? It wasn't that for several reasons, but would I regret not trying to date women? And the answer was yes. And I didn't want to die with regrets. I mean, that relationship or situationship ended for several reasons. After that ended, I specifically went to a lesbian dating event in person. And that's where I met my current girlfriend. So it's kind of crazy how that happened, but I'm so happy right now and I'm so grateful for that. And it would have never happened if I didn't make that decision and push myself outside my comfort zone. So honestly, the truth is discomfort is the teacher. I'm going to take you on my journey of digital nomading as a big example of this. So it was 2021. I gave up my Arlington lease, grabbed a buddy. My parents were so nice and let me move most of my stuff back to their place and then, travel with 1 to 2 suitcases around the US for like a year. But there were some low moments. There was a lot of research and work that went into it. It wasn't just all play. There was like a lot of work. We were still working at very intense consulting jobs at Deloitte. And I was on several projects throughout the time. And it was very difficult to transition teams and also like transition living situations every 1 to 2 months, changing environments every 1 to 2 months and living in areas where I barely knew anyone. That was difficult at times. And getting used to the whole like new routine and way of life, like where's the grocery store, different types of grocery stores, different locations for gyms, etc. Like how does my day to day look? How do I get around? Even like traffic patterns, like talk about, I mean, we were still in the US, so it was all like American cities, but Texas is a whole different traffic system than where I live in like the DMV. So that was crazy. Leases falling through. It wasn't all like pretty and perfect with our Airbnbs all locked in right away. Like we thought we had a place locked in the Virginia Beach, Norfolk area, and then one in Charlotte, North Carolina, and then one in Charleston, South Carolina for the first 3 months. And then less than a month before we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, the lease fell through. Like our Airbnb decided to sell his place and wasn't honoring our lease. And now all of the other places, prices had skyrocketed because it was last minute and we didn't have a place to live past that month, which I think was September. And so we were scrambling because that upended all of our plans. So that lease falling through, it was a huge like bump in the road. And we had to not only on top of our over 40-hour work weeks in these high pressure roles at this big four consulting firm, had to research and reach out to different people and also like look into the legality of this Airbnb host doing this. It was a shit show, but I learned that I couldn't navigate the experience alone. Community is so, so, so important. I reached out to coworkers who had done something similar for advice before starting this whole digital nomad journey. So that was super helpful. I traveled with a friend. I couldn't have done it alone. This was a good friend to have throughout the situation, throughout moving cities and, having a different amount of friends, anywhere from like 0 to 5 in each location. Having that one consistent friend the whole time made it way easier to navigate and more enjoyable. We also used our networks to help. Like when the lease fell through in Charlotte, North Carolina, my friend's dad helped us navigate the legal complexities and helped us get some money back and then book a new place that wasn't that different in terms of price. So, I mean, it was like a whole community effort. And I am very grateful for the supportive community that I have. There's a lot of growth that comes in the unglamorous sides of life. There's a lot of growth that comes through like going through hardships and challenges in life. The unexpected bumps in the road in this digital nomading experience, which also included my car not starting in California, and we were using my car to navigate, like basically going on a cross country road trip between Airbnbs and living situations. And it needed maintenance work in California, me not being familiar with the car shops and whatnot there, and just needing to navigate that. That was a huge bump in the road, pun intended. Switching up the living environments, different types of homes, different areas where we didn't know if we were new to the area, like what's safe versus not safe, being like young females navigating the world and constantly having to worry about our safety. It's exhausting. It is exhausting. But yeah, it just forced me to develop resilience, which helped me better navigate the problems that life threw at me then and has continued to throw at me, because life is going to constantly throw problems at you. So building this resilience muscle really helps me navigate these problems and challenges better. The hard truth is that nothing interesting happens inside your comfort zone. Growth requires getting uncomfortable, whether that is moving cities or finally applying for that dream job that you've been stalking on LinkedIn. We all know we've been there. And maybe it's making friends as an adult, like getting uncomfortable and putting yourself in a situation, going to an event where you know no one to make new friends if you want to expand your social circle. Like that is where the interesting stuff happens in life and it's necessary. So, in the spirit of pushing ourselves outside of our comfort zones and transparency, I'm going to share one exciting goal I have for 2026 that's going to require a big push outside of my comfort zone is to win hella money at a pitch competition. That is word for word, win hella money at a pitch competition. And this requires me to push myself outside of my comfort zone in several ways. It requires me to create a pitch for my business for the first time, which is like a PowerPoint deck. It requires me to practice and memorize that pitch and practice public speaking and then speak in public and present by myself to a group of judges. That is so scary. But I'm not going to win this big grant, all of this money to grow and develop my business unless I do that. And I can already tell the process so far has been so rewarding for the specific pitch competition that I'm a part of. And I think it's one of the best decisions I could ever make for my business and myself. Really, it's really allowed me to personally develop, personally and professionally develop. So the no regrets rule is powerful for living a purpose-driven life that's in alignment with your values and who you want to be. This week, here's one small action you can do. Find one thing you've been overthinking and ask yourself the no regrets question. If I do not do this, will I regret it in my lifetime? If the answer is yes, take one tiny step toward it today. For example, if the one thing you've been overthinking this week is applying for a new job, think about, if you don't do this, will you regret it in your lifetime? If the answer is yes, take a step toward it. This could be researching the company. This could be updating your resume. This could be reaching out to one person at the company to try to connect with them on LinkedIn, like sending a cold connection request or sending an email and asking if they'd be willing to chat. Networking is huge. Who you know is everything. So that's just one example, but there's many things that you could be overthinking. There's always things that I'm overthinking. And if this resonated with you, DM me on Instagram at thenakedtruth.pod and tell me what is one thing you might regret not trying in your life. Thanks for listening to The Naked Truth with Lauren. If you like the show, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review it on whatever platform you're listening or watching. It helps other women just like you to find the show. And if you have a friend who needs to hear this episode, share it with them. If you want to hear more from me, sign up for my Community Gratitude Practice newsletter at thenakedtruthwithlauren.com. You'll receive a quick dose of gratitude every week to help shift your focus from what's missing to what's meaningful in your life. And you can follow along on Instagram at thenakedtruth.pod for more inspiring content. Catch you on the next episode.